Welcome to the Virtual Manager podcast. My name's Anna Russell. I'm an artist manager and founder of The Virtual Manager. Throughout my career, I've developed and managed several music artists from new unsigned acts right through to globally successful ones. This podcast is for all unmanaged or independent music artists who want to start, build, or grow a successful, sustainable music career. Welcome back to the Virtual Manager podcast. This week's episode is a little bit different from what you'll have heard previously on the podcast. And that's because it's an extract of an interview that I have just published over in the Virtual Manager membership. It's with 18-year-old independent artist Joshua Grant, who last month managed to top the official charts in Scotland, as well as becoming #1 on the iTunes singer-songwriter chart. Remarkably, he did this with no label, no budget, no PR, no press, and no social media advertising. As such, this interview is of real interest to any artist who is just at the very beginning of their journey. So if you are contemplating or in the process of planning your first ever single releases, this episode is absolutely for you. Whilst Joshua's strategy might not be right for every single artist, it's going to be of interest to anyone who is keen on utilising social media as their biggest free tool that they have. And I also want to make sure that I'm sharing with you different strategies so that you can find the ones that resonate most with you and that are going to be most aligned with your artist brand and what you're trying to achieve. So you're just about to hear 20 minutes of what was an hour-long conversation with Joshua. I hope that this inspires you, but I also hope that it gives you some real practical tips to take away and implement into your own single release campaigns. Enjoy. First of all, I want to welcome you, Joshua Grant, to the Virtual Manager, and thank you so much for speaking to me today.
Thank you very much for having me.
And more importantly, a huge congratulations on your #1 in the official music charts for Scotland with your single Edinburgh, which I know was #1 last week. So we're just coming off the back of that experience. So I'd like to start right at the very beginning, if that's all right with you.
Yeah.
So I know you're only 18. I think that's right, isn't it? And you're currently an independent artist. And when was it that you would say you started professionally pursuing a music career?
So it was around pretty much this time last year, but around May time, I released my first song, Transparent. And I was sort of inspired by the music scene in Scotland anyway at the time, because it was it was booming basically. And I'd always loved music and I'd played guitar for ages. So I basically begged my mum to get me some recording gear for Christmas. Sat down, wrote a wee song, and then released it. Just like the buzz of actually releasing something and people being so lovely about it and being willing to support something that I was doing, definitely just made me want to carry on doing that.
Spurred
really.
You on.
So, yeah, for sure.
So Transparent came out just a little over a year ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Your first ever single. You didn't have music lined up. You just did a self-release using DistroKid as a distributor. So I'm really interested to hear from you how from that point onwards to now, you've become #1 in the official charts in Scotland and also #1 in the singer-songwriter iTunes chart with single Edinburgh. So Edinburgh, which is obviously about your and at my hometown for that matter, what single number is this? Is it single 2, single 3, single 4? Where are you on from the first single, Transparent?
This is currently #4. Okay. And if I'm being honest, I wish it was #8 or something, but I need to get writing more. That's something that I find most difficult, is actually writing songs and having a sort of a back catalogue of stuff that I could release is something that I've not actually been able to get into that position yet. But I mean, once I'm in that position, it's definitely going to be really useful. But Edinburgh was #4. #2 was a song called Gone. That was September last year. And then #3 was a single called Figure It Out. And that was January of this year. So yeah, this one's the fourth, almost a year on from the first one.
Yeah. So roughly your singles have been spaced out by about 2 or 3 months each.
Yeah.
So kind of, fourth ever single, complete self-release, doing it totally alone. And if you don't mind me saying, quite green to kind of the process of releasing music and marketing and promoting yourself as an artist. So when you kind of sat down to sort of think about the release of Edinburgh and planning for that, did you at that stage have No.1 either on the iTunes singer-songwriter chart or on the official charts for Scotland as a goal? Or is that something that kind of transpired as you started getting into the release?
It was definitely something I had in the back of my mind, because there was an artist that I supported back in February time. He was a support act like me, and we were both supporting Tom Walker in Edinburgh. His name's Luke Levolp, and he's incredible. He released his EP a couple of weeks back, and he got one of the songs to No.1. So that was definitely an inspiration, something that was so close to home and so inspiring to see him do it. I guess it did put that thought in the back of my mind, being like, that's something that I want to strive for. But I did not think it was going to be Edinburgh that was going to do it. Really, I didn't think it was going to be that soon, but it was amazing. Yeah.
So seeing somebody else that you felt was at a similar level to you actually achieving that kind of gave you, I guess, the inspiration, but also the motivation to think, actually, this is possible. It's within reach.
100%.
So do you think you had a bit of a mindset shift in terms of what is actually achievable for independent artists that are kind of self-releasing and also self-financing, which is, we often think with successful campaigns that there needs to be a huge, big budget behind it. But actually, do you think watching him do that made you realize, I can possibly make this work with the resources I have?
Oh yeah, 100%. It was definitely really, really inspiring for me to see what he did on his own. He's unsigned as well. So it definitely gave me the confidence to sort of put myself forward and try and achieve what he did. Yeah.
Tell me what the practical steps were in terms of getting this single out to as wide an audience as you could. So you've uploaded the single through your distributor, DistroKid. You've set a release date. Then what?
So the first thing I do, something I like to call ethical stalking. So you go through, a list of radio DJs, Spotify playlist creators, anyone that's able to help you, and somehow see if you can get their email, whether it's through a friend of a friend, or if they have their email up online anyway, even better.
Yes, yeah.
If they have their email up online, it usually means they want to be emailed.
Yes, yeah,
usually.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, and it's weird, because that's actually one of my most favorite parts about being an independent artist, is actually just asking people for help, because it's exciting and it's nice, and all it really takes is one person and the right person to say yes, and then a brand new door is just open for you. So the first thing I usually do is just try and find any radio DJs that would help me out, whether that be Scotland or sort of digital radio through the UK, Spotify playlist creators, and especially submitting the actual song to the Spotify editorial ones.
Yes,
within Spotify for artists, that's big. We didn't get playlisted this time round, and haven't been previously, but I mean, everyone knows the benefit of actually being playlisted like that. So that's something that's really important, to make sure I do that every time. And then I guess just making sure people know that a release is coming, whether that be press photos or little teasers that we managed to take from the video. And the video in itself was very, it was sort of created by people. So we had people send in photos of Edinburgh, whether it be the castle or Arthur's Seat, or just them and their mates in a pub or something.
Yeah.
I think that got people quite excited for it, which was really nice. And then we released the video before the actual release of the song on YouTube, so we could share it about YouTube and Facebook and put a little bit of it up on Twitter just so we could share it about social media and just let people know it was coming, basically.
Yeah. So using the music video that you'd created to get people familiar with the song and get the song heard before it was actually officially released. But I think more importantly, getting your fans invested in this release before it even started by having them be part of the music video by, they'd contributed their own kind of footage and photos and things, which I think is really clever. And it's something we talk about a lot here in the Virtual Manager is, showing people your artist journey and kind of bringing them into it using social media or reaching out to people as much as possible is quite important, because if they feel invested in a release before it even comes, they are literally invested in that release doing well. And as you say, it gains momentum that is very organic, because, when you see somebody else or your friends or your peer group talking about a new song or a new video or something like that, you're much more inclined to go and check it out and have a listen than if it's just kind of come from nowhere. So I think what you did was very organic and natural, but really quite smart, which is that the fact that people contributed to the music video before the song was out, that meant they had a vested interest in it, regardless of how it had done, if you see what I mean. So essentially you put together a target list of people within kind of radio, digital radio, PR, press, just yourself, and then reached out to those people.
Yeah.
Amazing. And how did you know who you were targeting in terms of, were you being specific to genre or specific to kind of certain types of coverage?
Definitely genre was one of them. And people that have helped me out before are contacts that I've made previously. And then I went to the shops a couple of weeks before and bought every single one of the newspapers, and then would go to the music section, find out who wrote it, and then email them with the video just to see if they would help out. Quite a lot of them got back before the release, which was really nice, and then almost all of them got back after the release. So that was well worth it, and it was really nice to get recognition in sort of the newspaper press and get a wee clipping to give to your gran and stuff. She was
so you
happy.
actually had good responses from all of the mail outs you did anyway. What do you think made them respond in terms of, have you been able to identify anything that you think they were responding particularly to, whether it was the song or the video or your approach or something you put in your email? Did you get any type of feeling or feedback even about why people were so responsive to this single?
I think there was a mix of things. I had a lot of belief in the song, which I think is a really important thing. A little bit of belief goes a long way. And there was a lot, like a wee press bio as well, just in the email. And I think, as you say, the Tom Walker support slot is in like the most valuable thing probably that I have in my toolkit just now. And it was just amazing to have that as something that I can put forward. And then definitely the video that was made, I guess, would make them a little bit, or whoever I was emailing, a little bit more emotionally invested, just because they could actually see the final product and what they would be helping out with. I think that was important. Yeah.
So in terms of actual, what I would call leverage, where you're able to say to the people you're contacting, this is who I am. And by the way, this is what I've done previously for you. The key thing was actually the Tom Walker support, because it just, it does give that social proof of like, you've had that sort of what we would call a cosign or the backing of, a well-known, well-respected artist. So really important point for those of you watching. It's so crucial to mention in your communications and contacts out to press and radio and whoever it might be, really crucial to actually say, by the way, these are sort of, X, Y, and Z career milestones, I think are really important. And once you've got one or two, that then lends itself to kind of 2 or 3 more. So for example, for you, with the next single release you do, you'll be able to mention the Tom Walker support, but you'll also obviously now be able to mention #1 in the official charts, #1 in the singer-songwriter iTunes charts, which again just builds that leverage and opens up a few more doors potentially. So once you were kind of executing your release plan and taking all these actions, what was the first tangible outcome? The first thing that happened where you were like, oh, this is getting some traction?
Um, Midnight of the release, we were refreshing iTunes just constantly. And I was on Instagram Live, just chatting to people and making sure they were streaming the song or buying the song on iTunes or whatever.
So this was day of release.
Yeah. So we released it Friday morning, Thursday night, which is, I would say, standard for most releases. Releases, you get that new music Friday. So early morning on Friday was on Instagram Live and sort of refreshing iTunes. And then it came up on number 4 on the singer-songwriter charts. And then I think
did that happen immediately, just on release day itself?
Yeah, so it was a couple minutes after, maybe 2 or 3 minutes after midnight, where all the pre-sales that I'd been pushing had registered and obviously gone through. So it's number 4 on singer-songwriter charts, which is just amazing. And then I think it came in at number 96 or something on the actual full iTunes charts. But that's really all it takes to get people wanting to get involved with something like that. I mean, I think as soon as everyone saw what was possible and the goal being to get higher than 96th and higher than 4th, I think as soon as that becomes a collective goal, the sky's the limit, really. And it's just however many people you can get involved.
So there's some important key actions that you took there that I don't think every artist would necessarily do or think to do. So number 1, you set up a pre-save, a pre-order for the single, meaning that you could bank, a certain number of sales or downloads or streams before it actually went live as a release midnight of that Thursday night on release day. So that's really, really important, because actually first day sales, streams, downloads are what count towards your chart positions. So you did that, which was great. Can I ask, how far in advance of the release date did you start your pre-save, pre-order, where people could actually go and do that?
Yeah, so I actually think I would do it differently next time. And what I did this time worked, but I would definitely do it differently the next. Just the Spotify pre-save, which is really useful for, getting Spotify. Hopefully they notice how many people are pre-saving your song, and maybe they put you on a playlist. That's not happened to me yet, but I know how valuable it is,
especially in terms of getting into the algorithmic playlists, which you did succeed with.
Yeah. I mean, the DistroKid as a distributor is really useful for their pre-saves. They just give you a wee link and you can post it anywhere, and people just sign up through their Spotify account, and then I think they automatically give you a follow on Spotify, which is just beyond valuable. And for the release radar algorithmic playlist and your future releases, and as a tool just to say this many Spotify followers or whatever, and then they automatically add the song to their playlists when it releases, which again, as you said, is really useful at triggering algorithms and hopefully getting it noticed for other things. And as for the iTunes one, I've started that pre-save or pre-order a week before release, which I would definitely not do again. And I would push it forward and maybe just release the pre-order for iTunes at the same time as the pre-order for Spotify, just so I've got as much time as humanly possible on that.
So giving it a few weeks for people to go and pre-order and pre-save,
absolutely.
So pre-save, pre-order, that was a big key action that you took. The second one, which thing that you mentioned there, which I think is really important, is at the actual time of release, in terms of the actual minute of release, not just the actual day of release, you were visible and live on your social media accounts talking to people, like literally saying to them, it is out now, as in this minute, go and get it. And then in real time, looking and saying to them, I can see right now it's number 4 in the iTunes chart. I'm trying to get it to number one. Please go and get it now. So actually, I think being active and visible at time of release, rather than kind of waiting 9 hours or 12 hours until the next day or the next morning. And I think too, also something that artists really miss is they don't usually ask people to take the action that they actually want them to take. And I think it's quite important as a new artist or as an early stages artist to say to people, this is my goal. This is what it means to me. I am asking you to go and pre-save or download or stream or buy or whatever it might be. Yeah. Do you think that was true for you in this case?
I think that's probably one of the most important things about a release, that sort of call to action. And I guess being visible on social media as well, giving your own sort of belief in the song. There's certain ways about getting people to actually, support your call to action, whether it be to pre-save a song or buy a song in running competitions or asking your friends to share it about. But there's definitely something to be said just about, believing in it yourself enough to just ask other people for help. And again, I'm a big believer, if you don't ask, you don't get. So you just have to ask and hope that other people will share your love and belief of whatever you're doing, really.
And I think, again, as you said with the video earlier, doing that and saying to people, this is my goal, this is how close we are to our goal as you move forward. Again, you're in getting fans invested in the actual journey and in the process. And it's exciting. It's as exciting for them, really, as it is for you, when every single day you're on there saying like, oh, it was number 4 yesterday and today it's number 3. And, we just want to get it up another place. I think that creates a sort of very organic buzz within your fan base. And if you don't mind me saying it, your fan base is still quite early stages, isn't it? You're not somebody that has tens of thousands of social media followers or a mailing list or anything like that. But what you were doing were galvanizing the people that were there, paying attention and not worrying about how many of them there were, and instead, making them very much part of your kind of dream to hit number 1.
Yeah, that's I think definitely the most important part of the release was everyone sort of seeing what was possible in the iTunes chart and Google Play and Amazon. Those sort of charts, and just weird, you're going up the charts and knocking off Drake and on people. It's just,
and again, that's exciting though for people, isn't it? When they're seeing like a local new artist achieving those things, suddenly they understand as well. Oh, actually, this might be possible. Let's help. Let's help him out.
Absolutely, that's definitely. If I was to rank things out of importance, that's 100% the most important thing about the
That's
release.
really interesting to hear that was kind of the number 1 thing for you.
Yeah.
Does that mean kind of moving forward for future releases, whether it were another single or an EP or an album, do you think that is the kind of main tactic that you would employ again from what you've learned on this release?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's something to be said about just word of mouth, really. It's so powerful once it just gets rolling. Such a powerful tool, and especially with social media, just the ability for 2 clicks of a button, someone to share what you're doing with a friend or a family member, just whoever follows them on social media. Twitter's great for it. Facebook was monumental for this release in particular, just because of the nature of the song, really, being about Edinburgh and having like an actual focus for the song. I was on I don't even know how many Facebook groups, searching up, there's a Facebook group for where I live, where it's like Friends of Cramond or something, and one called I Love Morningside, Edinburgh Past and Present, Edinburgh News, Scotland Scenery, just
so joining any Facebook groups that you thought might have a local interest, because the song is called Edinburgh and it's about their hometown, and actually reaching out to them.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean,
Great.
that was all I did for about a day.
Wow. Yeah.
Like it was 2 days after release or something. Just hopped on Facebook, and at that moment we had the video out on Facebook, and that was such a useful tool to have. Just reposting that video with a wee description. We're this high in the charts. We're trying to get to here. This is a video about Edinburgh, and it was made by just my friends, really.
Yeah.
And the response on Facebook was so lovely. It was just amazing. People backing it, sharing it about. Yeah.
So would you say that for this release campaign, would you say that social media was kind of the biggest tool that you used in terms of getting the word out, getting people to take the actions you wanted them to take? Is that correct to say?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially in a time like this when there are no gigs and you can't get out and do other things that some people would associate with a song's release. Really, I think social media was one of the only tools I had, but I'm glad that it was, because it's just such an amazing tool.
Yeah, absolutely. I really agree.
Yeah.
Did you spend any money on social media adverts for this campaign?
No.
Joshua, thank you so much for speaking with me today and for sharing your release strategy for the single Edinburgh. Got to number 1 in the official charts. It's an incredible achievement for a new artist. And I think everything you've discussed with us today is the perfect example of an organic campaign, using word of mouth, using social media to drive that word of mouth and getting people behind your goal, your cause, using very few assets, just one music video, one song, and very few resources and a lot of time and hard work. So really congratulations. Thank you so much for sharing this with us.
Thank you very much for
best of luck for whatever is next.
Thank you.
That's just a short extract of my conversation with independent artist Joshua Grant. In the full version, he gives a lot more tips about how he utilised social media to build momentum around this single release, how he galvanised what is quite a small social media following and fan base to get behind him in his goal to reach number 1, and how he went about approaching the press, media and radio targets that he had for this single. We also talk a lot about the importance of self-belief in your own music and of self-sufficiency in being an artist today. If you would like to hear the full version of this and see the entire interview with myself and Joshua, you can check it out now at the Virtual Manager membership, which you'll find at thevirtualmanager.co.uk. If you are an early stages artist, I think you will find it particularly useful. And speaking of being self-sufficient as a music artist, I'll be talking all about how to pandemic-proof your music career in the next episode, so join me back here then. Until then, I hope to see you in the Virtual Manager membership. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Virtual Manager podcast. If you found it useful, I invite you to check out the Virtual Manager membership site, an essential resource for independent artists who want to start, build, or grow a successful, sustainable music career. Everything you hear about on this podcast, we show you how to do in there. With monthly music industry training, a library of tools and resources for you to use, A&R feedback on your music, access to live Q&As with me, plus an active, supportive community of like-minded artists, the Virtual Manager is the perfect place to be for any unmanaged or independent music artist. Check it out now at thevirtualmanager.co.uk. Finally, please take a minute to review and subscribe to this podcast. It helps more independent music artists to find us.